It is 6 o'clock, and we will call the August the 14th Orange County Board of Education meeting to session, into session. Do I have a motion for us to enter closed session?
Yes, I move that the board enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A, 1, A3, A5, and A6 to consult with the board attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege, to consider confidential personnel matters, and to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under North Carolina General Statute 115C-319.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will enter closed session and return at 7. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 14th Orange County Schools Board of Education meeting. I will read the public charge. The Orange County Board of Education pledges to its citizens to conduct its business in a courteous, productive manner, showing respect for fellow board members, staff, and citizens. The board asks its citizens to conduct themselves with the same courtesy toward both personnel and each other. As per board policy, Robert's Rules of Order will be used to conduct meetings. A moment of silence will be observed before each meeting. In addition to the moment of silence at each meeting held at school sites, the board will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The board asks that you check your cell phones and other electronic devices to be certain that they're either turned off or on vibrate to avoid interruption of this meeting. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will observe a moment of silence. Okay, thank you all. At this time, we have some recognitions tonight. I see some people sitting here waiting for that. So, Mr. Foster.
Yes, good evening, Chair Purcell, members of the board. We'll kick off tonight's recognitions by recognizing some true life savers, starting with Orange High School athletic trainer Emily Gaddy, Orange High School first responder Alicia Harris, head coach Jackie McNosa, assistant coach Will Stinnett, and student athletes Abby Monteith, Sydney Rogers, and Sully Gaddy. We recognize these individuals tonight for receiving a lifesaver citation from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. These citations are given at personnel at member schools who are directly responsible for saving a life at a North Carolina High School Athletic Association practice or game. This past spring, this team, led by athletic trainer Emily Gaddy, saved the life of an Orange High School junior varsity soccer player that was suffering from heat stroke in April. In her always calm way, athletic trainer Gaddy guided her team to keep the student athlete's temperature down and stable until EMS arrived and took over. I believe incidents like this and countless others that occur in athletics at all levels speak to the importance of athletic trainers in our schools. In Orange County Schools, we're very fortunate to have athletic trainers in place to keep our student athletes safe. So thank you, Emily, coaches, student athletes, for your work and great work that you do every day to keep our student athletes in good condition and safe. And I believe Emily and Alicia may be joining us virtually as they are in practice with our football teams currently. So that, they obviously continue to do the great work for us there. We also have recognized tonight our coaches and student athletes are in attendance as well. So thank you so much for their great work and for taking care of our great student athletes along the way and every day and that they do and are involved.
All right, good evening, Chair Purcell, members of the board. Our career and technical education program has been a model of excellence, not only in our region, but across the state of North Carolina. I am truly honored and humbled this evening to recognize my colleague and our resident rock star, Ms. Shannon Braxton. Ms. Braxton was recently recognized as the North Central Region CTE Director of the Year. Ms. Braxton was nominated and voted by fellow North Central CTE directors for this honor. She was formally recognized at the CTE Summer Conference on July the 17th. Ms. Braxton will now prepare an awards portfolio and participate in an interview against the other 7 regions for North Carolina CTE Director of the Year in February of 2024. At this time, I'd like to call Ms. Braxton to the podium. She is going to recognize some other fantastic leaders from our career and technical education program who have joined her. But I do want to first give her a round of applause for her excellent work here in Orange County Schools.
Okay. You know, it's teamwork, right? This is teamwork. So tonight I want to go ahead and call them up. Melinda Forns, who is the CTE CIMC, that's Curriculum Instructional Management Coordinator, and Stephanie Smith, who is one of our 2 career development coordinators. Stephanie serves at Cedar Ridge High School. Where are y'all? Right here beside me. We're a team. Don't be behind me. So first off, you've seen Melinda Forns. This is your 3rd time with her before you. Melinda is doing great things not only here in Orange County schools, but she's doing great things in the North Central region and the state. So she was recognized as the North Central CIMC of the Year and then the state CIMC of the Year. And in July, unbeknownst to us, at that same CTE summer conference, she was recognized as the North Carolina Association of Career and Technical Education Teacher Educator of the Year, because she works with the teachers of career technical ed here in Orange County. And it is such an honor and a privilege to work side by side with Melinda doing the work here in Orange County schools. So congratulations to Melinda on this 2nd state level award. Smith, one of our CDCs, that's the career development coordinators, working with students hand in hand with career development plans, internships at the high school. She is going to be serving this full year as the North Central CDC champion, which means she's going to work with CDCs in the North Central region and statewide, a part of monthly collaboration stations throughout the state, hosted by DPI. And she will also participate in the development of next year's CTE Summer Conference for the statewide CDCs. So we're very excited to have her as part of our team as well.
All right, is that all of our recognitions, Mr. Smith? Okay. Congratulations to all of you. These folks have been working in Orange County for a long time, and they have known what they're doing for a long time. So we congratulate you all on this excellent job and wish you the best of luck as you bump up in the state finals. All right, tonight now we need to adopt our agenda for the night. We have a few items that we need to remove from the consent agenda, but we need to, Dr. Merrill, would you like to say something about those?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. There are a number of contracts that were on consent, and I need to run them through a few more screens and hope to be able to bring these back next Monday night. But I can indicate the changes to the agenda. The first is at a board member's request that we move the board committee structures for school year 23-24 to a discussion action item. So that's a movement. The following are contract renewals that I'm asking be pulled from the agenda tonight. Starting at number 7, the interpretation services, number 8, Dreambox, number 9, Avid, number 10, Ingenuity, number 11, Math 180, number 12, Get More Math. Skipping over 13 will remain, 14 comes off, Gizmos, number 15, Elevation, number 16, Nucella, and number 17, Curriculum Instruction with Branching Minds. So I'd ask that those be pulled for tonight. I just need to put some more screens on those before I bring them back to you for approval, and hope we can have that ready by next Monday night.
Yes, sir. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the changes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we have public comment. I think Ms. Hauser has the list of public comment, so when we call your name, you may step up to the podium, and you have 3 minutes.
First is Polly Dornetti.
Members of our school board, and quite frankly, every person in this audience, I know each and every one of you is here because you want the best for our children in this community. The 7 of you have more things in common than differences. Yet, over the past 7 years that I've had a child in Orange County schools, I've watched as the various members of the board who have come and gone have focused on their differences, have created groups of us versus them. I've watched this board swing from one side of the political spectrum and then to the other and back again. Each new regime, the focus is set on undoing what they did or pushing through what changes they stopped the last session. I'm here tonight to ask all of you to stop this divide, to ask for all 7 of you to quit focusing on your differences, but instead on what you have in common, a desire for each child in Orange County schools to become all that they can be. That starts with every child in every school in this district having a certified teacher in their classroom every day. That means every student, teacher, and staff member feels safe in their classroom, walking the halls, in gym class, at lunch, and at recess. Discipline has got to be brought under control in all of our schools. If you're sitting there right now thinking, I'm so glad that she is calling them out, I want you to know I'm talking to you too. I want to welcome Dr. Merrill. I am hopeful that you bring to this district the knowledge and experience to set our district on a course for student achievement. I hope during your time here, you will continue the positive strides our district has made towards equity. I hope that you will lay the groundwork for improved student outcomes for all student groups. But most of all, I hope that you can bring the focus of our school board to what really matters, our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Latondra Strong.
Good evening. It's no surprise I'm here to talk about equity and how important equity is in our district and about how important, how valuable it was to me and to my family and to many of the members of our communities when each of you stood before us and said that equity is a priority for you when you were campaigning. I want to remind you of that promise. I want to remind you that 8 years ago when I first came before the school board with a host of other families, equity was not a promise. In fact, many people didn't know what equity was all about. See, for many years, we've had students in our district that were not getting any services, not the services they need, but any services. And through the efforts of many people who have been committed to equity and committed to making sure many students in our district are getting services, we have, for the first time that I know of, #1 in growth. And that's not great, because where growth is low, but it's better than we were. And we're supposed to see that happen again. And so I'm hoping that you will be committed. That 8-year mark is important to me, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the last time I spoke before the Confederate flag thing, I reminded people that when Rosa Parks got arrested, it was 8 years before we had the first Civil Rights Act went into law. That day, I thought to myself, that was a long time. I couldn't imagine somebody being so steadfast and working on the issue for so long and not seeing any results. And it's been 8 years, and I'm still here because we still have students that's not getting an education. I'm so thankful for the growth that we see in the CTE program, because I remember when we were revving up this program in our district 8 years ago, we were also revving up the Equity Task Force. And folks were saying, we want the CTE program to be similar to the Equity Task Force. Could you imagine also getting awards for the Equity Task Force? But we have people in this district who want to stop that growth, who want to see Black and brown children not perform. See, we can talk about all children, but unless we talk about it in terms of the children that are actually receiving services, it means nothing to say all children when it's okay for you to say all children and be okay with children not getting the services they need. So Dr. Merrill, you have a big problem in this district because this is a polarized community. Isn't that a surprise? It's happening everywhere. So what I hope you will do is that you will find ways to bring this community together, because I think that's a grand idea, but it's not a grand idea unless every student is actually receiving services, especially those that have been neglected for decades. That's my charge to you, and that's my charge to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hillary McKenzie.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Merrill, staff, and community members. I'm speaking tonight as a taxpayer of Orange County, a parent of 2 students in Orange County schools, and as a former member of this school board. I have closely watched the actions of this board for the past year when Chair Purcell and Vice Chair Richmond were sworn into office. Since that time, aside from one vote about a federal grants position in central office, every single vote that hasn't been unanimous has been split 3-4. With former educators, Dr. Jennifer Moore, Sarah Smiley, and current high school teacher Carrie Doyle on one side, always voting in support of the district recommendations. On the other side, Ann Purcell, Andre Richmond, Bonnie Hauser, and Will Atherton have always voted against district recommendations by Superintendent Felder. To me, this is evidence of a deeply divided board, one that is run by a majority of 4, who has made no effort to build consensus with the group. I have seen and heard the pushback coming from the most conservative voices in our county calling for the removal of Dr. Felder. I have seen leadership from the conservative group Friends of Orange County Schools, who supported the 4 of you in the current board majority, say publicly that the board was paying too much attention to Black students under Dr. Felder's leadership, and who recently dismissed the enslavement of human beings as an opportunity to come to America for prosperity. If there was ever a demonstration as to why public schools need to teach accurate history, it's these groups making these kinds of statements, all while claiming they are friends to our students. Those quotes are available for review in the Assembly article Schoolyard Brawl by Barry Yeoman. To a former board member, it looks like Purcell, Richmond, Hauser, and Atherton ousted Dr. Felder. This action seems to signify that they believe it's appropriate to pay a leader $200,000 to walk away from the work of centering students who have historically been underserved by our district, even though data indicate that Dr. Felder was growing all of our students faster than any leader in the entire state. What an utter waste of resources that could have been spent at the school level rather than at central office. How can you possibly justify spending well over $400,000 only on a superintendent in 1 year? To Dr. Moore, Ms. Smiley, and Ms. Doyle, thank you for your service to the children of our county and for keeping the best interest of the students at the forefront of everything you do. To the community listening tonight, there is one simple action that will bring back balance and reasonable stewardship of our resources to this elected body. Voting Bonnie Hauser out of her seat in the spring 2024 election will shift the board away from a rogue majority, which consistently takes campaign money, endorsements, and boardroom direction from conservative groups, specifically those who pine for the good old days of OCS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle Price.
Good evening, board. Good evening, interim superintendent Dr. Merrill, parents, taxpayers. My name is Danielle Price. I'm a 5th generation Orange County School graduate. I'm an Orange County School parent and an active lifelong member of this community. Post-COVID, we've all heard from our district is how great we've done. But when can parents and taxpayers expect to hear us acknowledge the disparities that are vast within our district? And when are we planning to set forth a plan to address them? We're a district that so heavily touts equity. And while I do agree, because I am the parent of a minority's child, as a parent, I shouldn't have to change my child's school to get her the services that she deserves. Excuse me. I'm all for equity, but at this point, I'd be happy with equality. I ask that you all consider to put aside your differences, to work together to do what's best and in the best interest of all of our kids. I ask that you work together because we have children that are returning to school in 2 weeks. My hope is that we will not continue to let everything that has happened and transpired in the past 2 weeks continue to distract us and pull our focus from what your job is, to support our teachers, to give parents a peace of mind, and to educate our children. Our biggest picture here are our kids. They are our most valuable resources. And as all of you stood and took an oath of office, that is what you vowed to protect. Dr. Merrill, I welcome you. I look forward to the knowledge and experience that you bring, and hopefully some unity, much needed unity, to our district.
Thank you.
Katie Harper.
Good evening. Thank you for taking public comment. You already know my feelings about Dr. Felder's recent dismissal because I've spoken several times this year in support of her leadership, so I won't speak on it much tonight. Suffice it to say, I am angry at what appears to be a board majority firing a great superintendent and using the budget shortfall as a smokescreen. A shortfall you had a hand in. You approved those expenditures out of lapsed salaries, and you knew that once the line item was exhausted, you would need to pull from fund balance. You knew that the Board of County Commissioners had told our district to dip into fund balance, which is to say, to go over budget. And yet still, you blamed our previous superintendent as though she made those decisions on her own. My main reason for speaking tonight, as a parent of 2 children in the district, is to comment on Lawrence Road. I heard you say at the end of the open session on July 10th that you would be going into closed session to discuss this land. I want to voice my opposition to the potential purchase of land on Lawrence Road. It is not a good place for a school, which is what the county commissioners already determined 2 months ago in June when they denied the developer's rezoning request. It is not a good location for water and sewer services, which is what the town of Hillsborough already determined earlier in the year. It is not a good place for our school district to spend funds. If you do decide to move forward with the purchase in much the same way you decided to move forward with pushing Dr. Felder out the door, despite her desire to stay here, despite the positive changes she and her team have made for students in our district, despite vocal support from the broader community, the public will know. The public will know that our board chair, Ann Purcell, is cousins with Commissioner Earl McKee, who is a friend and employee of Jim Parker, who currently owns the land on Lawrence Road and wants to develop it in a way that is inconsistent with its current zoning. The public will know that Jim Parker and former board member Stephen Halkiotis have children at a charter school that originally wanted to move to this spot on Lawrence Road, but then settled for an articulation agreement with the high school that tried to move there next. The public will know that purchasing land on Lawrence amounts to cronyism. We do not need a school on this side of the county. We do not need land on Lawrence Road. Do not use our public tax dollars to help family members and friends make backroom deals for the benefit of their wallets and their relatives rather than for the good of our community. Thank you.
Tanisha Massey. Tanisha Massey.
Good evening. I come to you tonight not only as a concerned parent, but as a child of God with an immensely heavy heart. This pain is due to the constant abuse and misuse of the Word of God, the Holy Bible. The Word is surely meant to convict us, should we choose to walk along a righteous path. It is not meant to be used as a weapon of condemnation. In a recent article released by the Assembly, it saddened me to see some of these tactics among other anti-godly maneuvers in efforts to change things about our school system that friends in our community are against. During my time before you tonight, I will focus on a few points, concerns of friends that directly counteract with the truth as it pertains to the Word of God. First, parents' rights. As a parent, I do think it's important to be all the way in the know about my kids, which is why I've worked extremely hard to build an extremely safe relationship with my daughters. Regardless of my thoughts, they can talk to me about anything. Would you agree? I also raise my children on Christian principles, and we are very involved in our church in many ways. However, when a high-ranking member of the local chapter of Moms for Liberty stated she felt guidelines from the equity policy was an encroachment of parents' rights, my immediate thought was, I wonder what she does at doctor's appointments. As a mother of teenagers, we all know that in today's time, we have to step out of their doctor's appointments to honor their privacy. This is no different. Number two, protecting our students. This works in both ways. Protecting our students means accepting their choices as long as they are not detrimental to their health, usually. This means we should continue to love them all, even through such decisions that we don't agree with. These decisions may not always line up with God's plan for their life either. Our job as parents, as Proverbs 22:6 says, train a child up in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I believe that wholeheartedly. It is selfish for us to try and control our kids instead of embracing them. We all have to learn to listen and work through these choices and changes. Most of all, pray for them. Another member of Moms for Liberty stated, a book being read in their second year of their son's experience at Orange High School, Like Water for Chocolate Aloud, centered around lust and premarital sex. I would say the Holy Bible also speaks about premarital sex in the book Songs of Songs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eflin, Randy Eflin.
Good evening. I'm the mother of two children that attend Hillsborough Elementary. And in June, the last week of school, they brought home their school yearbook. And I was shocked to see that the pride flag was displayed across the front cover. For the past couple of years, I've noticed the pride flag displayed outside of several classrooms at Hillsborough Elementary. And being someone who usually doesn't speak out or speak up, I turned a blind eye. But when the elementary school yearbook came home, knowing that I had paid for this and it was brought into my home with the pride flag displayed across it, it was a wake-up call for me. When I think of a yearbook cover, I think it should be a representation of the contents inside the book. The pride flag clearly is not a representation of the student population of Hillsborough Elementary. And it certainly is not inclusive of all students, families, and staff's ideologies or lifestyles. It made me really start to question, what is the intent of displaying the pride flag prominently in our schools, particularly elementary schools? Is the intent to educate our youngest children about the real meaning of the flag, to influence them to learn about and celebrate the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, and queer community? Elementary schoolers have no concept of these terms. So is it our school's goal to teach them about sexual preferences and sexual behaviors? I certainly hope that's not the case. Or is the intent to avoid the true meaning of the flag and maybe present it as a symbol of unity or of acceptance, or something equally misleading and inaccurate? That to me is the epitome of indoctrination. Are we encouraging all teachers to display their choice of flags and symbols inside and outside of their classrooms to represent their ideologies and lifestyle choices? Or is it only the pride flag that is promoted in our schools? It is time for Orange County schools to choose to focus on educating our children. Let's stick to the basics: math, reading, science, and the like. I constantly hear from Orange County that the aim is to foster a school environment that is inclusive of all. So let's only display flags that are truly representative of all of our students. That's the American flag and the North Carolina flag. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim West.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jim West. I've lived in Hillsborough since 1996. And one of the reasons why I love Hillsborough and Orange County is because we do have some really good schools here. I mean, the teachers, you guys, everybody that's put in effort here, it's a very concerted effort. I grew up in the rural parts of the state where education was kind of a second thought. So I do appreciate anybody's time on it. Even if I don't agree with your positions on certain matters, I do appreciate you. I do respect that. I do work for a national CPA firm. And one thing we do whenever a client wants to consider about moving or relocating to a specific area, we always want to find out the different aspects, what's a good fit and everything. One of the first things we look at is education. And, you know, for the longest time, I was very proud about being in Orange County. This last time with Dr. Felder being terminated, it was the first time it really gave me pause. I was pretty upset about it, to be honest with you. I thought Dr. Felder was doing the right thing. Whenever something is working, why fix it? There's not a problem, don't fix it on that. The one thing that Martin Luther King Jr. once said, you know, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can. We need to love our kids. We need to love our teachers. We need to love this thing called equity. We need to love everything about equality. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, we've got some really good people here. And you know, there's a lot of people all over the spectrum here. It's conservative, moderate, liberal. It's all good. We're all Orange Countyans. We can't be Blue County, we can't be Red County. We've got to be Orange County. We've got to have Orange County values. And I ask you guys, do not put another superintendent under the crosshairs. Do not try to politicize something. This is about our kids. And I'm 52 years old, and I doubt I'll ever have another child. And a lot of you probably be glad about that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I do worry about our direction after this vote. Please, please really consider your actions. This gentleman right here, he sounds like a really good gentleman. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I hope the best for you. Keep him out of the crosshairs. Keep out anybody out of the crosshairs. Keep your teachers out of the crosshairs. keep your principals out of the crosshairs, but more than anything else, keep your kids out of the crosshairs. Thank you.
Robin Mulkey, followed by Jackie Barker.
Well, it's almost that time of year. And no, not pumpkin spice. It's the new school year and the smell of new crayons and the squeak of the new markers. It's time that our students and our teachers get to turn a new page. It's time Orange County Schools and the Board of Education get to turn a new page with what's focus on what's best for our students. It's time to turn a new page to new ways, to new positive ways. So networking helps recruit so that new staff, you get them by new and better ways. Maybe our teachers would be recruiting teachers because they're happy about working here. Maybe our bus drivers are recruiting bus drivers from some other areas because this is a good place to be. Folks, hopefully that'll appreciate Orange County, its huge territory with all of its challenges, that we don't have reliable internet at the most northern nor the most southern edges of our county, that those roads are a challenge, especially when those winter storms hit. The new page, as you embark on this superintendent search and find a new way other than the school board association, maybe that networking can find a better way that'll find one to last longer. And a new ruler to measure our impact on all the students. So I challenge you to turn a new page, to use a new ruler and measure how it impacts our children. Thank you.
Jackie Barker, followed by Allison Mahaley.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about finances and influences. It's that time of year again. We're all excited. Property tax bills, yay. As a property owner, I pay the county around 10% of the tax value of my property, which includes the county fees. They do a really good job on the bill breaking down where the tax dollars actually go. If you look, the majority, it's 38%, that goes to education. Did you notice it's been cut? It was 48% last year. So I feel like with the majority of my tax dollars supporting education and with less support from the county this year, taxpayers have a vested interest on how schools are spending this money. Specifically, who is on the receiving end of the money spent? Do you think the likes of Rockefellers, Bill Gates, Zuckerbergs are getting these tax dollars? Well, they are. The district has contracts with nonprofits and companies who are directly funded by Gates, Zuckerberg, Jobs, Rockefellers, Buffetts, and then that funding makes its way right back into their pockets. So you see, it's a cycle of money passing from one hand to the next and back to the top. One example is Panorama Education, who has so far received $145,000 in contracts from the district. Who owns this company? U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland's son-in-law, Zan Tanner. Remember Merrick Garland, who called for the FBI to address parents speaking out at board meetings? Startup funding came from Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs' nonprofit Emerson, among some others. Panorama Ed provides student surveys that data mine our children in order to force change in school culture and pump out citizens through their design. By the way, parents, you can opt out of those surveys. They come around 3 times a year. Has the district lost local control over who has influence in our schools by giving up to the powerful sitting at the top of the chain? Or is that by design? Are we selling our children out with programs funded by tax-exempt nonprofit cartels who possess power, influence, and capital while we foot the bill? Who's behind the funding of Newsella, Dreambox, Solution Tree, Pacific Education Group, Castle, Rethink Ed? Some of these are on the agenda tonight. There's a reason large grant-making, tax-exempt nonprofits are involved in funding our schools. When the influence is coming from one source, one ideology with one agenda, there will be no diversity or individualism. The curriculum, grants, surveys, and training provided through these contracts are designed to influence our children, teachers, and parents who then will go on to vote, keeping the same system in place. Let's start looking into the money that is behind the grants and contracts the board is accepting and paying out. You know the saying, if it's free, you are the one being sold. And thank you for your service.
Allison Mahaley, followed by Sarah Snipes.
Good evening, everyone. I want to especially say good evening to Dr. Merrill. You were my former superintendent in Alamance County. And I have very fond memories of the time that you led that school district. Unfortunately, after you left, Alamance County went back to being a good old boy school district as it had been before you were there. And I'm very concerned about what's going on here in Orange County. I'm really disappointed in this board for letting Dr. Felder go. I'm here tonight as a taxpayer. You are wasting my money. The amount of money that you are paying Dr. Merrill, I'm sure it's commensurate with other interim superintendents. However, it is equivalent to 5 teacher salaries. 5. I don't believe that there should be money wasted when our teachers are struggling to make ends meet, and most of them cannot afford to live in this district. I'm very frustrated as a taxpayer that my county commissioners try to offset the expense of charter schools in this district, and that money doesn't actually make a difference in your ability to recruit. I'm very frustrated as a taxpayer, and I'm paying attention. Thank you.
Sarah Snipes, followed by Sophia Stewart.
Good evening, board. Greetings, Chair Purcell and new Dr. Merrill. I'd like to recognize tonight as a new opportunity for our district to refocus on academic education and excellence. For far too long in this district, there has been a heavy focus on controversial social and political topics. This has been a distraction and a lack of attention on academics, a lack of attention on staff and teachers, and it's resulted in the deterioration of our district. And it's evident in the county's poor performance and budgetary issues. The fundamental purpose of a school is to teach academics and knowledge so that as children mature, they have the education to make their own individual decisions about the current social and political topics. They shouldn't be told how to believe or what to believe. We should teach them the knowledge so they can make that decision for themselves. Knowledge is power. Every person should be afforded the respect, the dignity, and the opportunity to make decisions based on their own individual understanding of the information. So instead of having curriculums focus on racial, social, or sexist categorization of students, I'd like to recommend that our new leadership focus on the individual excellence of every student. There is no need to categorize, stereotype certain segments of students, teachers, or staff. They all have the opportunity to be excellent. I'd like to challenge the new leadership to focus on those elements that unite students, teachers, staff, parents, and community citizens. Focus on topics that unify us instead of dividing us. I encourage our board and our new leadership to continue being excellent stewards of the staff, the students, the finances, and our community. We should focus on every individual, every teacher, and primarily focus on academic excellence. And to be good stewards of our finances does entail doing an audit and getting under the hood, if you will, of where these contracts go that have been negotiated in the past that were called out. If we have to spend a little money to clean house so that it goes towards our students, then I'm in full support of that, as my community dollars go to what's best for every student and to support our staff and teachers in this community. Thank you.
Sophia Stewart, followed by, and I hope I'm saying this right, Kim Patinio.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts tonight. My name is Sophia Stewart. I grew up in this school district and went to Grady Brown, Standback, and Cedar Ridge. My overall experience in Orange County schools was positive, especially elementary school. As I remember it, the culture and character education when I was at Grady Brown, as well as the academics, was phenomenal. One of the things I remember the teachers telling us over and over was that we were the #1 school in America, and I believed it. We were united by pride in our school and in our country, and that was a feeling that I've never forgotten to this day. After graduating from college recently, I decided I wanted to work in education so I could pass along this love of learning that my elementary school experience instilled in me. Currently, I am qualified to teach elementary school as well as secondary level math. However, as I was looking at different districts to apply for jobs for this school year, I decided not to apply in OCS for a few reasons. First, when I graduated in 2016, proficiency in math was 7% better than the state average. But in 2022, proficiency in math was 4% worse than the state average. To me, this shows that this district has not been focused on the basics of education in recent years like it should. Additionally, the state of staff vacancies, high turnover, and the results of the 2021 OCS Equity Report show that this district has not been investing in an environment or a culture that supports teachers. From friends and community members with kids at Orange County schools, I also heard about an obsessive focus from leadership on controversial race and gender issues that were definitely not prominent when I was in school. Clearly, OCS has been so focused on DEI concerns that they have neglected supporting teachers and failed to prepare students to be thoughtful, knowledgeable citizens, which is the entire purpose of public education. How about instead of this, have a renewed focus on math and reading and science? What about looking beyond the tunnel vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion to character education like kindness, honesty, accountability, and discipline? What about educating all children specific to their needs, including those with disabilities and those with advanced learning needs? This is what I remember from my years in Orange County schools, and I hope that we can go back to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tinio, followed by Earl Ty.
Hi. Quotes taken from Reuters investigates the New York Post interviews and the Stranger reports. Helena Kirshner, a 20-year-old detransitioner from Cincinnati, Ohio, who was born a biological female, first felt gender dysphoria at age 14. She said, "I was going through a period where I felt really isolated at school, so I turned to the internet," she recalled. "My dysphoria was definitely triggered by this online community. I never thought my gender or had a problem with being a girl. I never thought about my gender or had a problem with being a girl before until going on Tumblr." Dr. Erica Anderson, a transgender woman, a clinical psychologist specializing in gender, sexuality, and identity, stated, "I'm concerned that the rise of detransitioners is reflective of some young people who have progressed through their gender journey very, very quickly. My dysphoria collided with my general depression issues and body image issues," Helena recalled. "I just came to the conclusion that I was born in the wrong body and that all my problems in life would be solved if I transitioned. More attention needs to be paid to psychotherapy," Chloe, another detransitioner, said. We are immediately jumping into irreversible medical treatments when we could be focusing on empowering these children to not hate their bodies. Marcus Evans, a resigned clinical director of adult and adolescent services at the Tavistock in the UK, where many youths seek treatment for gender dysphoria, said, "I saw children being fast-tracked into medical solutions for psychological problems, and when kids get on the medical conveyor belt, they don't get off," Evans said. What do these experiences of children and professionals in the sexuality and gender care space have to do with Orange County schools? We have teachers and staff who believe in it is their place to talk with students about their sexuality, to teach grade school children lessons about drag queens and transgender activists throughout history, and talk to young children about sexual lifestyle choices. We have had counselors tell kids on a whim that they could change their gender and use this idea as a catch-all solution to the growing pains of adolescence. Are these topics part of basic education mandates as mandated by the state of North Carolina? Could the public school be a protected place of academic learning, free at least from authorities bringing topics to the children which they themselves resolved as adults? Is teaching first graders complex levels of love, like sometimes boys love boys and girls love girls, as is stated in the elementary pride slides, part of the basic education? Children who have been loved show an immense capacity to love anyone and everyone. They do not connect this unconditional love that they have available in abundance to the romantic love the pride curriculum is attempting to teach them. Thank you.
Earl Ty, followed by Gretchen Schmidt.
Good evening. I am Earl Ty. I am a volunteer with a grassroots organization here in Orange County called Friends of Orange County Schools. And we count among our friends many parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, people of varying political affiliations, men and women of all races, young and old, and of course, taxpayers. And despite all of our obvious differences, we all share a passionate commitment to the high-quality education and well-being of all the children in this community. And I'm here tonight to thank you for your service. And I'm also here to thank you for your unanimous vote that resulted in a change in leadership in this district. And to our new interim superintendent, Dr. Merrill, welcome to Orange County Schools. We're excited you're here and welcome your experience and knowledge as you work with our school board to make our schools the very best they can be. I've attended most every school board meeting since last summer. And from my observations over that time, it was clear there were a number of problems that persisted much of the year in many cases. We have a lack of teachers, trained staff, and principals. And if it's not obvious, bad things happen when adults aren't in the classroom, when adults aren't in the building. Academics suffer, discipline suffers, morale suffers. And that's particularly problematic right now, given that for the past few years, our students have performed lower than the state average for the most part. That's a problem. Discipline has been a problem. And all of that has happened alongside what we would call a lack of focus on academics that has given way to other kinds of initiatives. In a county that is growing, we're not seeing the corresponding growth in student enrollment. Yet the central district has grown quite a bit. The fact is that parents are looking for other alternatives, other education options. Teachers are leaving, and I understand that happens in most every district, but it just seems to have reached and maintained at a crisis level here in Orange County. There's been a persistent lack of transparency and communication. The big surprise announcement in the spring of this year that there was a $1 million+ shortfall that necessitated a $500,000 draw from the fund balance. And that's just not how a school district should be run. Lack of transparency and communication with the board and the district frequently put the board in a position of having to react to something unforeseen. So unfortunately, the kids are the ones who lose when that's the case. So thank you for your service, and we look forward to your continued work to improve our schools. Thank you.
Gretchen Schmidt, followed by David Ogden.
Good evening, board. Welcome and good evening, Dr. Merrill. I've spoken up here several times on multiple subjects and where the particular mission of Moms for Liberty Orange County is to defend parental rights on all levels of government. I have recently heard that word on the street was that we in particular are not wanting the tools, teachers, resources, and services for all children, and that we would be for holding the above back based on race. I have never heard, discussed, or thought any of these ideas. As far as Moms for Liberty is concerned, every parent as a parent and as a taxpayer has the right to expect and receive all the necessary tools, teachers, resources necessary to achieve the basic education the district is tasked to bring to every child to their potential. Where equity is concerned, every child is an individual, and every individual must be held in a space and with a focus on where they are at currently, and teach them to be the resourceful learners and build their bodies and their minds to the greatest potential possible for each and every one. We would fight and help any parent have who comes to us for support that is not receiving this. The main topic of my comment this evening is the handshake, the eye contact, the greeting that I saw over a 14-year period in Waldorf education. The kindergarten child approaches the warm-hearted teachers usually with a smile from ear to ear. The first grader approaches with a triumphant, sometimes a toothless grin, as they confidently looked into their teacher's eyes and gave an energetic handshake. The handshake and eye contact evolve over the years, and the teachers may have to wait several seconds, sometimes many seconds, with clasped hands, while the middle school youth has drawn inward and may no longer have the confidence to look the teacher that has taught and served and loved them for many years. It is believed across cultures and faiths that the eyes are the window to the soul. When human beings connect with a handshake, souls connect. I don't have time to go over all the benefits of learning to have good eye contact and a firm handshake, but they are well demonstrated. There is sentiment that we as human beings cannot learn effectively if the teacher does not come from our same background or look like us. Maybe this is true. I'm not an expert on this subject, but if it is true, we're kind of in trouble in Orange County schools. That means, depending on your race, you might not be able to learn. I don't believe that this is true. I think that something as free as a handshake and eye contact where we can connect as human beings and let each other know who we are and that we care about each other as students and teachers can overcome many of these kinds of boundaries. And I'm not saying this because I believe there shouldn't be, all kinds of teachers hired, but I think that there are some free tools that have been used over millennia that overpower all of these things, a lot of these things that we're talking about tonight. Thank you.
David Ogden.
Board members and Dr. Merrill, I'm grateful for the calls for unity and of purpose tonight. I think we could have all gone home after the First Lady spoke. It was exactly what this group needs to hear. There are important changes this district needs to make in order to correct its focus towards children. I'm going to mention 2 examples of our lack of focus on children, not to attack anyone, but to be transparent about exactly what I see that is taking away from our purpose. For more than 2 years, I was a guardian, caregiver, and eventually a foster parent for 2 Black children with exceptional needs who went to Grady Brown Elementary School in the last year. I think nearly every child and teacher in that school knew those boys by name. The oldest of my children started as a first grader at Hillsborough Elementary, and he's now a junior at Cedar Ridge. Over the last 10 years, I've had hundreds of interactions with teachers, principals, administrators, counselors, resource officers, parents, and students. I've been on many field trips and to many sporting events. Countless times I've I've sat in principal, counselor, and teacher offices to discuss the needs of children in my care. How many of those meetings and conferences do you think my concern was racial intolerance? How many times did staff mistreat the children I care for, whether they were Black or white, because of a staff member's own subconscious bias? How many times were these children hurt emotionally or otherwise by students or staff based on the color of their skin? Everyone here knows the answer to these questions. Many have seen recently published photos of our equity director, Lee Williams' office. In the picture, you can see pride flags, resist emblems, and political slogans framed on the wall. What is missing from this picture? I would ask Mr. Williams, where is the flag that represents the EC students and teachers in our schools who have all but been abandoned by our central office? Our equity facilitator, Mr. Sadie, frequently posts things like this on social media. He said, starting with elementary and primary years, let's discuss systematic racism and white supremacy culture. Mr. Sadie also is known for heralding flags that represent gender, race, and social justice. I would ask Mr. Sadie, when will you raise a flag that represents the thousands in our district of every skin color that are not proficient in math or reading or science or writing? Despite the best efforts of some in our community to divide us, the indisputable fact remains. Our children have far more in common than they have that divides them. Let us rise above flags and stickers and emblems and symbols that detract from our common purpose so that so many here have called for tonight. That every child, regardless of how we can group them or divide them, will graduate from our schools with the ability to achieve and contribute in whatever path they choose. Thank you.
Ebony Bryant.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ebony Freeland Bryant, mother of a rising 7th grader at Gravely Hill and a rising 9th grader at Cedar Ridge, and the PTSO president at Gravely. As much as I am committed to making sure that you don't forget Gravely Hill Middle School, I had no plans to come tonight. I was so frustrated and irritated with the behavior at the June meeting and all the events that have happened since that I said I couldn't come back until September to give myself time to not be annoyed or quite frankly ashamed. Because there have been times even during this comments that I wish I had kept with my original plan. But I was reminded it's about more than feelings. It's about the children of Orange County, and it's about the grown-ups who have the power to make things better, doing the right thing instead of battling to be right. But my heart is heavy tonight, and I'm not sure how these students that we're standing for would respond to this meeting. So working in education requires courage and it requires leadership. We're in a time in this country and in this world where we need more people that embody leadership more than they're trying to be in charge. Author J. Donald Waters said, leadership is an opportunity to serve. It is not a trumpet call to self-importance. So as we embark on this new school year, I would encourage everyone here to think about how you are leading. How are you using the opportunity that your role offers? How are your decisions speaking for our kids? Because every day, every board or special call meeting, every school visit, every interaction with OCS staff, teachers, students, families, you're called to lead. You're called to use the characteristics of leadership like empathy, courage, confidence, creativity, and serving a purpose greater than yourself. Leadership goes beyond a title or a position. It is truly defined by how you walk through this life. And we recognize, however, that we walk through this life can be greatly affected by the privilege that we have or don't have. It's important to consider the ways in which we experience the world, each one of us, through the things that give us our identity. Each one of us has a gender, a race, an ability status, an age, and these group memberships make up who we are. So as you board members lead on this board, and as you district staff lead in the front office, as teachers and school admins and staff lead in the school, and as we families lead at home, it is important to recognize that everyone can sit in places of privilege and bias. Your identities can place you on either end of the spectrum, and it is important that you remember that when you approach people. and how you navigate your privilege. This year, I hope and pray that we all approach every day in the Orange County School District in a way that remembers who we are working for. And as a volunteer in a school that would love to have this many folks show up to cover lunch duty and in concession stands, I hope we'll show up the same way as we did tonight. Amen.
Okay, that concludes our public comment tonight. Thank you all for coming out and speaking. Thank you all who are attending this board meeting. Okay, we move on to board comments. Ms. Smiley, do you have any board comments?
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and welcome Dr. Merrill. One thing I wanted to note on the agenda, just a suggestion for moving forward, and I went back and tried to figure out when this started getting taken off agendas, is that in the past, historically, there's been a section for board reports and comments and for the superintendent to have a report and comment. And so I'd like to see that come back and be a regular part of the agenda as well. That's my only comment.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you, Chair Purcell. I do want to recognize we're starting a new school year, and I appreciate the leadership of Dr. Felder these past several years, her leadership into a place of strong academic gains post-COVID, and recent closing of gaps in both opportunity and representation for our diverse student body and community. And I appreciate you, Dr. Merrill, for your willingness to lead us through this time of transition so that we continue to make progress in these areas and continue to move forward with redistricting. I appreciate all of our staff, central office, school level, teachers, bus drivers, everybody for working extra hard to ensure a smooth start to the school year amid a time of change. And I appreciate all of our community members coming out tonight on a summer evening. And I encourage you to continue coming and hold us to the vision of our strategic plan.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Dr. Moore, do you feel like, can you say anything? Dr. Moore's home and not feeling well tonight, so I will ask her if she has any comments to make or if she would like to wait.
I'll wait because I don't have much voice.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Thank you. Ms. Hauser?
Sure. I wanted to also just thank every community member that came out tonight and shared your thoughts and interests. I assure you we're listening. And please, we look forward to you continuing to hold us accountable for the things that we say we'll do. I want to welcome Dr. Merrill to our leadership team and am excited about working with you. I wanted to say something. I don't know if the community is aware, but right now, Orange County government has a $1 million facility study going on of all its schools. That study is supposed to be done at the end of the year, and that study will decide if and where we put new schools, and only that study will decide that. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that that study is underway, and if you want to follow the Capital Needs Work Group of Orange County, and our board will be talking about that study shortly, certainly you're welcome to do that. And I just needed to go back to the beginning with Ms. Braxton, Ms. Fornes, Ms. Smith, and Mr. Montgomery, and thank them because I did have an opportunity to sit through our Summer Career Academy graduation, and in that process learned, and you may or may not know that Orange County has this year had about 30 intern students working in jobs in Orange and Alamance County, and about half of those students are actually working in the school district. They're working in maintenance jobs, teaching jobs, one's even teaching a high school engineering course. And those jobs those internships convert to jobs. And I have to just say, I dare any charter school to match what you all are doing. And I just want to thank you so much for that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I will add that we're all excited about the new school year. and that I got to spend some time a week and a half ago with two of our new principals, Jalen Brown at AL Standback, who has more energy, I think, than everybody in this room put together. He is committed and ready to go to work and ready to get his children in his building, and that came through loud and clear to the parents and the people that went to the little reception that they had in the lobby at AL Standback. I think he's going to be a fantastic principal and look forward to working with him in the district. I also got to meet with one of my former students, Miss Kristen Madison Williamson, who is now principal at Pathways Elementary. And she too exuded that excitement that parents got to see, students got to see as they greeted her coming into Pathways. It was very exciting to see the little children engaging with her and her being so friendly and just ready to go to work. So I am looking forward to this school year as we get started. I applaud all of our teachers in this district and applaud our principals and all the people that are working very hard to get this school year started and off on the right foot. And I can think that I can honestly say that we are going to start on the right foot and that there are a lot of excited students that are ready to come back to school. There are some that are not quite so ready, but I guarantee that that first day of school, when they get back in the building, they're going to be excited just like everybody else. So we're looking forward to starting this school year. And once again, I thank all of you for coming out tonight, and I appreciate your comments. I enjoy hearing from you, and I hope that you will come back in the future and let us know how we're doing and what we're doing well and what we may not be doing so well. I also welcome Dr. James Merrill here. I met him 2 weeks ago, and he has hit the ground running, and we are very happy to have him here. So thank you again. At this time, we need to make a motion to approve our consent agenda with the changes that we had on there. And so can I have a motion to approve that agenda again?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Moore. All right. We have moved the committee report down to under the discussion item with the continuance or discontinuance of cost-saving direction, and that is coming from, I think that is coming from Ms. Rath. Okay. Ms. Rath, are you ready?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This evening, we are here to seek input and direction from the board in regards to the cost-saving measures that were recommended by staff at the March 20th board meeting. In particular, we are looking for approval to allow professional development and attendance to workshops and conferences out of the local budget, as long as those funds are available and budgeted. We're also asking for reasonable refreshments or snacks to be provided at professional development events, as long as they are budgeted and those budgeted funds are available. And we are also asking for consideration. One of the items that the board asked for at that meeting was for all contracts expending local funds to be brought to the board for approval. We are asking for consideration to consider going back to policy 8705, which allows the superintendent the ability to approve contracts up to $50,000. Is there any questions?
Any questions from anyone?
I have.
Ms. Hauser?
Just to clarify, there was also a central office hiring freeze. Well, that will stay in effect?
Unless the board wishes otherwise, that will stay in effect.
Okay, and on the contracts, if I read the abstract correctly, the contracts of 50,000, they would be items that would have been previously budgeted.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank
Just
you.
a question about the hiring freeze. I thought I remembered that stopped being in effect at the end of the school year. Is that, what is the current status? No?
Board,
Is it currently active? I just
the board
can't quite remember.
board instated it until the board lifts it. It's in place until the board lifts.
We can certainly check the minutes to confirm. I don't specifically recall.
Okay.
We can, we'll get an answer back to the full board before the week's over. And depending on the answer to the board's direction, if they are frozen, then I would hope to bring one at a time some rationale that says this particular one, we'd like you to review, approve, and fill. So we can either do it on a piecemeal basis or depending on what our minutes had said. Because we do have a couple criticals that are sitting there and it's close to opening, so.
And that's how it's always been, is the freeze has been, the superintendent has brought items even when a freeze has been in effect. But I do remember the board very specifically putting a freeze in effect over the summer.
Okay.
Until we lifted it. The concern, of course, is, and we haven't done the enrollment topic yet, but with, we still have a budget to finalize and enrollment is changing, so.
Okay, on this item, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Any discussion further? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Moore?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have committees of the board, and for those of you that don't know, I ask each board member what committee they would like to serve on. And I put them on the committees that they had said they would want to serve on. Last year, we had 2 committees that were made committees of the whole board during the year because we had so many people who wanted to go and be a part of these committees. One of them was the Budget Committee and the other one was the School Achievement Committee. This year, I did not, I wanted to wait for a board meeting to discuss that with board members because I did not want to assume that board members wanted to do the committees of the whole again this year. I wanted to make sure that we were doing as you wanted to do. And so we do have, tonight, we need to decide, do we want those 2 committees to be committees of the whole again this year? Or do we want to go back to having 3-person committees for those 2 committees as well? So I need to know the board's thoughts and ideas on those. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Miles.
Well, and I'm in favor of the Student Achievement Committee being a committee of the whole. We put that in place really late in the school year, but before we had that, it felt very odd to be having situations where we were inviting school teams in to share how they were working on PLCs or MTSS or whatever, and 3 board members were there being able to have a conversation with them. And so my recommendation for student achievement is that it continues to be a committee of the whole, recognizing that a number of board members have full-time day jobs. I think that we would probably be looking at evening meetings, and I don't want to add too many knowing that that impacts staff. So My thought right now is having a student achievement committee that meets 3 or 4 times during the year at key points. So one of the things that we do is look at in-year interim assessment data and how students are performing beginning, middle, end of the year, school improvement plans. There's certain key points maybe where we would sort of have a number of those topics, a slightly longer meeting, probably in the evening, so more people could come. So that's my thought about that committee. And then budget, I think just everybody being able to weigh in on budget as we go, as opposed to waiting to the end would also be useful, so.
Any other comments?
Mr. Holt? I support Sarah's suggestion for student achievement committee.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel that way about budget. I think that we have some complex budget issues that we have to take on. I'm hoping that we make more progress towards equity-based budgeting, which is something we've talked about since I joined the board, but we've not really made progress on. So I'm hoping that we, and it's easier to take on these important topics with the full board rather than a small committee and then without hearing from the full board. So I would like to see our budget committee also be a committee of the full board. I don't know exactly how many meetings. I think we have to put a plan together.
Okay, do I have a motion that we make both of these committees committees of the board?
So moved.
Second?
Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Moore?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I do need to make one correction on that. Mr. Atherton had asked to serve on the business committee as a liaison as well. So if it's okay with you all, I would like to add him to that because that was an oversight. So I will add him if that is an approval with everyone. Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on. We have updates on the 24 allotments from Ms. Hatcher and Ms. Rath, I believe. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening, Chair Purcell, board members, Dr. Merrill. I'm not sure who's driving. Are you driving, Ryan? Thank you. So we come before you this evening just to kind of give you an update on where we are regarding our current allotments. And we basically, per our report in Assembly, we do have an allotment process that we have been using and updating you all on. And that allotment process basically starts with a couple of pieces. And we've used this throughout the school year, and we'll continue these steps as we go through next school year to prepare for our allotment process. We have a district electronic and intent process and transfer process, which we've used this year. Our transfer process allowed us to, we started our intent process in March, and our transfer process actually in April, and it went to June 30th, so it allowed more staff who wanted the opportunity to transfer to do so. We also had an allotment committee, which assured that we made certain that we had a programmatic allotment process. That committee consisted of various members of central office, as well as we did have principals on those committees as well. Principals were provided individual allotment time so they could basically sign up for an allotment meeting and get information on their schools and how the process would look. They were also given the opportunity to request positions that were outside of their allotment. And we wanted to have them, actually we wanted to hear from them from the standpoint of is there something that they would like to have? It was almost like we call it the wish list. And then principals were actually given, we started the process with projections in April. And then as the process moved along and we began more, after that process, we started with more actuals, which actuals aligned with Power School to actual, the difference between, as you all know, a projection and an actual is the projections are actually what is in Power School, the students that are actually in Power School, and Power School opens in in July. And we were able to come back once Power School opened and had meetings and conversations with our principals. We will, and we always follow a continuous improvement model. So we'll be looking at our process to see what worked well and what we need to improve upon. We also found through this process, particularly with our actual numbers, and this is where you'll see there was some enrollment impacts that Ms. Raff is going to talk about. And as you well know, the enrollment drives our staffing. So at this point, I'm going to turn over to Ms. Raff, and she can talk about some of our enrollment impacts. And then we'll take questions at the end.
Hi, good evening. As part of this presentation, we did want to provide you an update of what our membership is, the terminology I'm going to use tonight. Basically, that's the students that have enrolled, less the students that have withdrawn. So when you look at where we ended last school year, we had 7,065 students in membership. And our projected numbers for this upcoming year are 6,961 at the time that we did this presentation. Because the numbers are changing and we are looking at actual numbers based upon the number of actual students that are being entered into Power School, that number is now 7,002. So our difference is 63 overall at this time. You've seen this information before. We just wanted to share it again. At our average daily membership, this is the average number of days that a student is in membership, and this is what DPI utilizes to provide funding to the school district at the state level, as well as what our Board of County Commissioners utilize to provide us funding at the local level. As you can see over the 10-year trend, our overall average daily membership has trended downward, and our charter school enrollment has trended upward. The one component that I focus on during this process is how much we're off from what DPI has projected our funding on. DPI projected Orange County Schools to have average daily membership of 7,122 for this upcoming school year. If we are over or under that 2% or 100, the district is in a chance of having another adjustment made in the November-December timeframe. Right now, based upon the numbers that we're looking at on an actual basis, we are 63 under what DPI has projected. We hope that we're able to at least hold at that, if not even make that better, so that we don't have to think about more funds being reverted from the district, from the state. And that's all I had. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Dahl. Just a quick question, Ms. Rath, thank you. Could you tell me again what the DPI projection was?
7,122.
Thank you.
Ms. Hauser? So just so I understand, right now, we're good, right? That we're not within that 2%, over that 2% threshold.
We're at 7,002 versus 7,122. So actually, we're at a difference of 120. We hope, and I'm confident that those students will come, and because we are continuing to enroll. This is something that we are monitoring daily and watching daily, and will continue to watch very closely even after schools open, to ensure that our enrollment, that we are staffed in alignment with our enrollment. Right now, we're at a difference of 120.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm not doing the math. That's not 2%?
1.68.
Or 100. It's, the allotment policy manual states.
Oh, or 100.
2% or 100.
100. Oh, got it. So we are at risk.
Okay, right now.
We are at risk at the current moment based upon 120 difference
Okay.
between what we actually have versus DPI's projection.
Thank you.
And is this where they adjust that based on the month 1 and month 2 ADM?
Yes.
And then, so essentially in October, early November is where we would know, like, that's the more official number, is they look at month 1, month 2.
That is correct. They're going to look at day 20 and day 40, and they are going to take the best of those, and that's what they will use to determine if we fall into a category or of being more than they projected or less than they projected.
Can I ask one other question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any situations in our schools where we've, you and I have spoken, Ms. Rath, about cutting to the bone, where we really have not enough teachers, or we have very large class sizes, or are we moving to combination classes anywhere? So are there any schools that are really affected by this?
I'm gonna let my counterpart answer that if I may.
I got real lucky, didn't I?
Yes, because I think she has that data for you.
Actually, we are reviewing that data. Dr. Merrill, myself, and Ms. Raff looked at that data this morning. We want to make sure that data is accurate and a little tighter. So we did ask Dr. Green, our Chief Academic Officer, to check in with principals, as well as I've done as well, and we will send that information out within the week.
Great, thank you.
I was going to ask if we could have an update next Monday night, just so we're in the loop. Can we do that? All right, any other questions? Thank you both. We appreciate it. I know you're watching it closely. Okay, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Okay, I need a motion that we adjourn.
Motion. Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Moore?
Aye.
Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Thanks, Sam.